to work in an old psych hospital. Halfway through the night shift, I got floated up to another unit. They had a whole bunch of discharges that evening, and most of the empty rooms hadn't been cleaned. I did one of the Q 15-minute safety checks. I didn't know offhand which rooms had been empty, so I just walked by all of them and matched up a face with a name. One of the rooms had a bedroom lights off, and the bed was unmade, but the bathroom light was on, and the bathroom door was cracked open. I just grabbed the handle and started to open the door all the way. The handle wrenched out of my hand, and the door slammed shut out of nowhere before I could open it all the way. Then I heard a violent banging on the walls from inside the bathroom. I looked on the clipboard and saw that no patient was assigned to that room. I opened the door, and sure enough, the bathroom was empty. Later that night, the blood pressure cuff on my machine went off on its own 3 times. The house manager, a woman in her 60s, worked for the facility for over 30 years, came to my unit. I told her about the creepy event that had transpired. She turned white as a sheet. She told me that 15 years before, a patient, a woman in her 20s, had smuggled a knife into the unit. She slit her wrists in the shower of the bathroom and passed away. The house manager told me she could smell that iron laden blood scent before she even walked in that room. I'm not at all superstitious or a believer in ghosts, but that night was creepy enough to make me wonder. Our old unit had a ghost named Susie. Call lights in empty rooms, giggling or whispering on the floor, doors opening or closing. Coffee mugs seemingly vanish in a blink of an eye and reappearing later in a different location on the unit. Susie wasn't evil by no way. If something fishy was happening, sternly but quietly saying, "No, Susie, stop that," seemingly helped. But if you ever yelled or swore at Susie, you might not find your coffee mug for about a week. Or the chart you just put down disappeared. We were pretty sure that Susie was a child. Most well-behaved, just always up to shenanigans. We all like Susie, even though no one knows why she targeted our coffee mugs. Also, no one had a clue how Susie ended up with us. Our unit never really cared for pediatric patients. I used to work in this locked memory care wing of an assisted living facility. This one resident hated me for some reason. Maybe I looked like someone from her past. Well, one day, she yelled that she was going to haunt me when she died. Then she unexpectedly died a few days later. I was working the evening shift, and the lady died around 5 p.m. We had to wait for the funeral home for a few hours to come pick her up. The creepy part was that her call light kept turning on. I replaced the cord thinking she somehow tampered with it, but it kept going off. We assessed this lady so many times, but that she was very much so dead. My coworkers and I would just stand there and watch the light above her door turn on over and over again. After the funeral home finally came to pick her up, the call light stopped going off. I was a newish charge nurse on nights. An older lady in a room right across from the nursing station was on comfort care measures. So sad. She was impossible to calm down, even with a person in her room at all times, calling for her mother, and constantly pressing her call light and the PCA button. She passed away after about a week. The next patient in that bed, the call light would go off constantly, and they would say they never rang it. An electrician came in to figure it out, but the issue kept happening again and again. Finally, we actually deactivated the electrical panel running to that bed. The patient, now in an adjacent bed, was pleasantly confused, and we went in because we could hear her talking, and she said there was a lady in the other bed, but that bed was unoccupied. This person who she was talking to was looking for her mother, and we should help. She gave the deceased woman's name, as well as the name of the deceased woman's mother. I left the department shortly after. Fast forward 18 months later, that hospital wing was being decommissioned, and all patients moving to a newly built facility. I helped on moving day on my old unit. The call light went off, and a nurse who I worked with says it always went off, and that bed never had any patients in it after they shut it down. Nobody knew why. After the unit was shut down, I heard the hospital security would continue to get alerts and phone calls that were tracing back to the landline patients' phone lines from that room. I was shrouding my first ever patient as a new grad. This man had been deceased a few hours. Family had just left and he needed to be bagged. This man was like 6'5" and in rigor mortis. It took forever to bag him because he could barely fit in the bag, and we struggled to bend his limbs to get the bag closed. This was my first charade, so I wanted to finish. Meanwhile, my patient down the hall had been calling for a while. He was a high fall risk, schizophrenic, and very impulsive. I finally ran directly from my deceased patient to this guy's room, apologizing for the delay and asked what he needed. He looked alarmed, kept looking past me, and was hesitant to speak to me. He goes, "Can we speak in private?" I say yes, again, and ask what he needs. He responds, "Can you ask him to leave?" And I said, "Who?" And him staring right past me, "The tall guy behind you." I've never ran out of a room so fast.